The European Union and the United Kingdom are entering a new era of defense cooperation, stated High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas and Foreign Secretary of UK David Lammy. In a joint article for Politica, they emphasized that Brussels and London are committed to increasing defense spending and bolstering support for Kyiv.
The EU's landmark initiative, ReArm Europe, aims to mobilize around €800 billion for defense, while the UK has announced the biggest increase in defense spending since the end of the Cold War, to reach 2.5% of GDP by 2027. The cooperation between the UK-led Interflex and the EU military mission for Ukraine has already been instrumental, training more than 120,000 Ukrainian soldiers between them. From the joint column of Kaja Kallas and David Lammy for Politico.
The main topics of the talks between the head of European diplomacy and the United Kingdom's foreign and defense ministers will be coordination of cooperation in Ukraine and increasing economic pressure on the aggressor country, according to a press release published on the website of the United Kingdom government. The focus of attention will obviously be on Kaja Kallas' initiative to allocate a new €40 billion military aid package to Ukraine, according to the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. This proposal has received support in the EU. The only way to achieve peace is to help Ukraine, Kaja Kallas is convinced.
Everybody welcomed the results of the Jeddah talks, and now, of course, the ball is in Russia's court, and what we see right now that Russia doesn't really want peace. And also what was understanding around the table is that Russia can't really be trusted. So they will seize this opportunity to present all kinds of demands, and what we already see, they are presenting demands that are their ultimate goals. So let's see how this develops further.
Efforts to strengthen Kyiv's position are also underway in London. Prime Minister of UK Keir Starmer has urged partners to join the coalition of the willing, a coalition of countries ready to support Kyiv in achieving a sustainable and negotiated peace. In online meeting of world leaders, Starmer stated that Putin must stop the war against Ukraine and agree to a ceasefire proposed by the US.
President Zelensky, who's with us this morning, has shown once again that Ukraine is the party of peace because he has agreed to and committed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. Being prepared to defend any deal ourselves through a coalition of the willing. We've begun that process, and this morning we can take it forward. And then thirdly, and really importantly, given the developments of the last few days, to keep the pressure on Putin to come to the table. And I think collectively we've got a number of ways that we can do that.
Russia must pay for its war against Ukraine, stated David Lammy. The UK government has calculated that due to sanctions imposed by London and Brussels since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the aggressor country has lost $450 billion in economic activity. Frozen Russian assets should be directed towards supporting Ukraine, according to the UK Foreign Secretary.
I'm delighted that the first £752 million payment of the UK's £2.26 billion loan to be repaid by the profits has been generated on Russian sanctioned assets so far, but she knows that there is rightfully a discussion about moving from freezing to seizing. It's important that if we were to move in that direction, that there is unanimity amongst the G7, of course, and that there is a way forward within the European Union.
Putin seems uninterested in a ceasefire, and therefore the G7 is considering further actions, said the UK Foreign Secretary following the G7 foreign ministers meeting in Canada. Main topics for discussion include the use of frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine and increasing sanctions pressure on Russia's energy and defense sectors. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Andrei Dmitrenko, UATV News.
A ceasefire and security guarantees for Ukraine must become a fundamental part of any potential peace agreement currently under discussion among Ukraine's allies. Ukraine needs to be strengthened in its defense capabilities and supported in its resistance to any form of aggression. NATO has announced that the alliance is on track to fulfill its 2025 defense funding plan for Ukraine, amounting to 40 billion euros. After talks with US President Donald Trump, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte confirmed that alliance members will continue to support Ukraine.
On Ukraine, allies are preparing billions more in aid plus contributions to security guarantees. Mark Rutte, NATO Secretary General, on social network X.
Deploying peacekeepers to Ukraine is considered a key element in ensuring future security guarantees. In recent weeks, European countries have intensified discussions about sending Western contingents to Ukraine to oversee a possible future ceasefire. According to Bloomberg sources, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has discussed the potential deployment of Turkish troops to Ukraine with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Turkey has NATO's second-largest army after the United States. Turkey's willingness to help oversee a potential ceasefire is seen as an important step in easing the burden on European allies, who are currently developing plans for a European peacekeeping mission in Ukraine.
Russia didn't give a response to Turkey on the matter of sending forces to Ukraine, although the topic was discussed with Lavrov during his recent visit. A person close to Russian government said, "Turkey backs Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity," according to a Ukrainian official familiar with the talks, adding that Ankara supports peace and security guarantees that are reliable. From the Bloomberg publication,
European participation in the negotiation process is crucial. Overseas, reaching an agreement will be difficult, believes EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas. In her view, Europe must play a central role in any deal involving Ukraine.
Why are we in NATO? It is because we are afraid of Russia. And the only thing that really works, the only security guarantee that works, is NATO's umbrella Kaja Kallas, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy.
Analysts agree that NATO membership remains the strongest security guarantee for Ukraine.
Putin would have to think twice about restarting a war if he thinks the major Western powers are obligated to defend Ukraine. Of course, bringing Ukraine into NATO would put American and European skin and credibility in the game. That explains Trump's hesitation, even resistance to such a concept. Peter Roff, Senior Fellow and Director of the Center on Europe and Eurasia at the Hudson Institute think tank, in an interview with Fox News.
The EU country willing to take the lead in providing security guarantees to Ukraine is likely to assume a dominant role in the region. Support for Ukraine within the EU remains stable, experts note.
Support for Ukraine hasn't changed. What has evolved is the understanding of how that support should be structured and its time frames. When we talk about specific countries like Hungary or Slovakia, their positions and visions for Ukraine's role might differ. But if we look at public opinion, it remains largely pro-Ukrainian, even in those countries.
French President Emmanuel Macron, after meeting with US President Donald Trump, called for building a lasting peace in Ukraine. Europe is prepared to offer Ukraine security guarantees, including the deployment of peacekeepers. As part of this initiative, France and the United Kingdom have developed a joint plan aimed at providing security guarantees for Ukraine. Reported by Serhiy Kulias, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.